You know how annoying it is when a website takes forever to load, right? Well, your visitor feels the same way. A speedy site isn't just a nice to have, it's a crucial for keeping your people happy and engaging. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to measure your website speed, and I'm going to give you some tips how to make your site super fast. For example, I have a website, and as you see, the performance is 60%, and the loading time for largest contentful paint is 4 seconds. I'm going to speed it up in a way that the performance grade is 100% and the loading time is less than a second. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's chat about why having a website speed is so important. So let's dive in. But first of all, what is page load time? Well, page load time is a duration it takes for a web page to appear on a screen from the moment a user requests it. And it's crucial for many reasons, but here are some of the reasons you should keep the speed of your site good. The first reason is a user experience, because users are more likely to engage and return to your site if it loads quickly and smoothly. Also, it affects your conversion rates. That is, slower page speeds correlate with higher bounce rates and lower conversion rates. For example, according to an experiment by tech agency Portent, website conversion rates drop by 4.4% with each second of load time. And almost 70% of consumers have said that page speed impacts their willingness to buy. They also found that a site that loads in 1 second has 2.5 times higher conversion rate than a site that loads in 5 seconds. Now, what is a good load time for a website? Well, ideally you'll want your website to load within 3 seconds. Keep in mind that the average speed of a first page Google result is 1.65 seconds. But Google says that best practice for the site is if the site loads under 3 seconds. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that currently there are 3 core web vitals. That is, largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, and interaction to next paint responsiveness. And according to Google, these metrics are the most important ones for providing a great user experience. Now, what is largest contentful paint? It measures how long it takes for the most meaningful content on your site to load. That's usually your site's hero section or featured image. According to Google, how long it takes for a page main content to load affects how quickly users perceive your site to load. And to provide a good user experience, your site should strive to have largest contentful paint of 2.5 seconds or less. Cumulative layout shift measures how much your site's content shifts or moves around as it loads. And interaction to next paint is a web page responsiveness metric measuring the latency of all user interactions on a page. Responsiveness means pages react quickly to user interactions. When a page responds to an interaction, the browser promptly displays visual feedback in the next frame to confirm the interaction success. This is what users expect. This all is nice and dandy, but now let's check out some different ways to measure your website speed and go over a few tools that can help you do just that. There are a couple of ways to measure your website speed. For example, I have a site here. It has a WooCommerce installed, it has products. There are a bunch of images on my homepage, bunch of text blocks, buttons, and so on. There is also a contact form and price list. Now, to measure whether it's fast or not, there are a couple of ways. First option is built in every browser, and that is if you right-click on your site, select Inspect, then there are performance and network options available. Let's click on the Network tab, let's refresh the page, and down below you'll see what is happening. Currently, if loading, this page has 111 requests, it downloads 5.6 megabytes of resources, and it finishes loading in 5 seconds. If we take a look at the Performance tab, let's click on the Reload button here. It's gonna profile your site, and now you'll see what is happening here. It's summary, bottom up, call tree, event log, and this is your timeline here. If you're using a Chrome browser, then it has a lighthouse built in, that is the page speed. So let's test, analyze page load, and it's gonna give us a Google page speed performance information. For the mobile is 73%,
Largest contentful paint is 4.7 seconds, first contentful paint 2.8 seconds, and so on. If this is too techy for you, then you can go to the PageSpeed Insights website and analyze your site over there. For example, let's analyze it. And after the 20 or 30 seconds, it says that the performance for mobile is 64%, largest contentful paint 6.6 seconds, first contentful paint 2.9 seconds, and so on. For the desktop, it's a bit better. Largest contentful paint 1.4 seconds, first contentful paint 0.7 seconds, and performance 88%. The third option is you can go to the Pingdom website, enter a URL, choose the nearest location from your server, start test. It will give you the performance grade, page size, load time, and so on. Some suggestions how to improve your page performance, and all other information. There is also an option to test your site with a GTmetrix. I already did it. Currently the performance is 60%, largest contentful paint 4.0 seconds, and all other information down below here. You can also use a Performance Analyzer Chrome extension. How does it work? It sits up here. If I refresh the page and click here, it will tell me that currently it has 115 requests. Load time is almost 4 seconds. Time to first paint 3.3 seconds. Slowest call, average call, and if I scroll down, here's a breakdown what's happening on this site. So this is a way you can measure your site speed in different ways.
Okay, now let's dive into how can we tweak your website speed. As you saw, my test site's results weren't exactly impressive, but now let's see how I can fix it and make it faster.
Well, there are a bunch of optimization plugins you can use, but in this video we're going to use a plugin called WP Rocket. It's an all-in-one web performance plugin that allows you to optimize your site with a couple of clicks. It's a premium plugin, and current pricing is $4.9 per month for one website, $9.9 per month for 3 websites, and for unlimited websites it's $24.90, and all this is if billed yearly. These are the official prices, but if you take a look at the description of this video, then there is a nice 10% discount coupon for you. Just follow the link and use the coupon and you're good to go. Now when this is out of the way, let's install the plugin. Let's activate it, and then you'll see the menu up here. Let's go to the settings, and this is my dashboard here. I'm gonna close this notification. It looks a bit less cluttered. Let's go through all the settings and see what is what and how this or that impacts your site website speed. Here on the dashboard you can clear and preload cache. This button allows you to clear critical images. Some other information here. If you would like to share the data with the development team, then you can activate this selection here. There are some links to the important documentation, how to start, how to configure, and so on. Some frequently asked questions. Next, let's open up the file optimization tab, and as you see there is a sidebar on the right. I'm gonna deactivate it so it's a bit easier to grasp what is what here. First option, minify CSS files. That is, you can remove whitespace and comments to reduce the file size. I'm gonna activate it. There is a warning, this could break things. If you notice any errors on your website after having activated this setting, just deactivate it. Now, before we move on, I have to talk about some best practices for the configuration. That is, when you test options in WP Rocket, you should activate options one at a time and not everything at once, otherwise it's hard to figure out what broke your site. Also, it would be wise to check your site in a browser window every time you activate or deactivate something. And I suggest you to use an incognito or private window for it. By doing this, you will be able to see immediately if a particular option causes any issues. But at the moment, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to activate it. Here I can add exclusion rules. If there are some files I would like to exclude, then just add the URL here. Next, I'm going to activate CSS delivery. I'm going to remove unused CSS, but there is also an option to load CSS asynchronously. I'm going to use this one here. Let's activate it. On my regular site, I would save changes right now and would open up a private tab with my site to test whether something is broken. At the moment, everything seems to be working, so I'm gonna skip this part later, because otherwise the video would be really long. Next one, we have an option to minify JavaScript files. The same notification here, I'm gonna activate it. Once again, I can exclude some files if needed. I can combine JavaScript files, that is, it combines your site's internal, third-party and inline JavaScript, reducing HTTP requests. If your site uses HTTP 2, then it's not recommended to use it. If you would like to read more about it, then there is a more info button here. Load JavaScript deferred, that is, it eliminates render blocking JavaScript on your site, and it also can improve your load time. Next, you can delay JavaScript execution, and this improves your performance by delaying the loading of JavaScript files until the user interaction, that is, until you scroll until the point the JavaScript is needed. WP Rocket has a one-click exclusions option built in. So for example, if I'm using Google Tag Manager, Google Maps or any other scripts, then I can exclude those by selecting it here. If I open up the plugins tab, then those are the plugins that are pre-built in for the exclusions. Now when this is done, let's save changes and move to the next tab. Before I proceed with the video, don't forget to smash that like button down below here. It means a lot to me and it also helps my channel. So I would appreciate your help. The next tab is media, and here we can activate the lazy load. What is a lazy load? Well, it's an option which allows you to improve actual and perceived loading time as images, iframes and videos that will be loaded only if the user scrolls to it. For example, those are the images here, but since they are not visible at the moment, they will not be loaded until I scroll down to the images themselves. So, let's enable it for images, enable for CSS background images, and let's enable it for iframes and videos. If you're using YouTube iframes on your site, then you can replace YouTube iframes with a preview image. If you would like to exclude some images or iframes, then add the image names here. For example, if you would like to exclude your logo, then copy your image link, add it here, just leave the image name and done. Next one, you can add missing image dimensions, that is, add missing width and height attributes to images, and this helps prevent layout shifts and improve the reading experience for your visitors. So let's activate it and let's save it. Next tab we have here is a preload. And this one allows us to activate cache preloading. Why is this useful? Well, when you enable preloading, it automatically detects your sitemaps and saves all URLs to the database. And this plugin will make sure that your cache is always preloaded. So I'm going to activate it. I'm going to activate link preloading. It's also useful because it improves the perceived load time by downloading a page when a user hovers over the link. There is also an option to prefetch DNS requests, which can make external file loads faster, especially on mobile networks. If you need help with this part, then just click on this link here. If you would like to preload fonts, for example, you're using your own custom fonts, then add the address to the font here and you're good to go. Let's save it and let's move to the next tab. And next tab is Advanced Rules. Here you can set your cache lifespan. By default it's 10 hours, but you can change it as you like. I like it to be 8 hours, and after 8 hours the cache is rebuilt automatically after the lifespan expiration. The number you enter here depends on your site. Maybe you only change or add something to your site every month or so, then the 10 hours here is good. But if something happens frequently on your site, then you can consider using lower number here. Next one. If you would like to exclude some pages from caching, for example, your WooCommerce cart or checkout pages, then add the URL here. The same goes with cookies. If you would like some cookies never to be cached, then add the information here. User agents here. Here you can add URLs you would like always to be purged. For example, maybe I would like my blog page to be purged every time I publish or update my blog, then I'm gonna grab the URL, add it here. Now let's save it and let's move to the database tab. And this tab allows us to clean up our database. For example, as you see, currently there are 1.2 thousand revisions in my database. What is a revision? Every time you save your page or post or product, there is a revision, or the version of this post before updating it is saved in the database. So, if there are any auto drafts, let's clear this one. There is only one trashed post, but let's delete also this one. I have no spam comments or trashed comments. There are transients in my database. And what are the transients? Those are the temporary options that are safe to remove. Those are automatically regenerated as your plugins require them. If I would like to optimize my database table, I would select this one here. And there is an option to schedule automatic cleanup. I'm not going to do that, but you can choose whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly. Now, let's save changes and optimize. And when it's done, it says that revisions, trashed posts, and transients were optimized. Next one is CDN. You can integrate your site with a CDN, for example, Cloudflare or Sucuri. I'm going to skip this part because I don't use CDN. Next tab is for the heartbeat. And what is a heartbeat? Every time you're editing your page or posts, WordPress autosaves and revisions it in a post editor. Also, it's used for scheduled post publications or real-time data displayed on the dashboard by plugins, for example, WooCommerce and other third-party plugins. By default, the Heartbeat API runs every 15 or 60 seconds. And while helpful, then on some servers it can cause an overload or a high CPU usage. And depending on the provider and hosting type, it could lead to performance issues and possibly account suspensions. Therefore, let's reduce the activity for behavior in backend, behavior in post editor, and behavior in frontend. You can choose whether to do not limit or disable it, but in this case, I'm just reducing the activity. Next tab is Addons, and those offer you some features which extend your available options without configuration needed. For example, user cache add-on. There is an explanation. If you need to create a dedicated set of cache files for each logged in WordPress user, you must activate this add-on. I don't need it, therefore I leave it as it is. My server doesn't run on Varnish, therefore I'm also going to leave this alone. How do you know whether your server uses Varnish or not? Well, the simplest way to find it out is just ask your hosting provider. Next one, I can improve browser compatibility for WebP images. Well, since I don't use any WebP plugins on my site, I'm going to leave it as it is. I don't use Cloudflare or Sucuri, so those two will be deactivated. But if you need any of those, then it's a nifty feature here. Next tab, image optimization. WP Rocket allows us to install the Imagify Image Optimizer plugin. And what will it do? It compresses all your images in one click. It converts images to WebP format. It resizes your images on the fly. And the free plan includes 20 megabytes per month. That is approximately 200 images. I'm not going to install it at the moment, but you can do it if needed. Next one is import-export tools. I can export settings, import settings. I can roll back the version if needed. And I can update inclusion and exclusion lists. And last tab is for tutorials. So basically everything is done here. Let's open the site in a private tab. I'm going to refresh it to see whether something is broken. Nothing seems to be out of the order. So let's take a look at the shop page. And I already feel that by clicking through the site is already faster. But this is just a feeling. Let's take a look at the performance analyzer. As you remember, before the loading time was 3.3 seconds. Now it's less than a half a second, even less than a quarter of a second. As I remember, time to first byte was almost 3 seconds. Now it's 9 milliseconds and so on. This is a performance analyzer, but let's take a look at other metrics. This was my page speed before. I'm going to copy this URL and open it up. I'm going to analyze it once again. And so we can see what are the differences between the previous version and this version. In the meantime, I'm going to also open up GTmetrix and retest the site. And I'm going to open up the ping them and retest this one also. So previously the performance for the mobile for 64%, first contentful paint 2.9 seconds and largest contentful paint 6.6 seconds, speed index 8.8 seconds. And now it's for mobile 90%, first contentful paint 1.8 seconds, largest contentful paint 3.5 and speed index 1.8. And for the desktop previously it was 88% with largest contentful paint 1.4 seconds. Now it's 100% with largest contentful paint less than a second. This was for the page speed. Let's take a look at Pingdom. Previously it was 72%, load time 5 seconds, 89 requests, page size 3.6 megabytes. Now it's 1.6 megabytes, 51 requests, performance grade 82 and load time less than a second, so more than 4 seconds faster than it was before. And last one, GT metrics. Initially it was 60% for performance grade, largest contentful paint 4 seconds, and now it's performance 100% and largest contentful paint less than a second. It took us only a couple of minutes to accomplish all that. Awesome, isn't it?
Alright folks, that's a wrap. While website speed is a key factor for SEO, there are plenty of other things to keep in mind. Plus, there's a lot of SEO myth floating around out there. I've made a separate video about one of the biggest SEO myths, and this video is right on the screen now. So, make sure to check it out next. In the meantime, take care.